Welcome back, everyone. Oh man, today is going to be an entertaining day in the stock market. Anytime we get good old roaring kitty waking up the stock market, you usually get a lot of retail enthusiasm. Robinhood here in pre-market up 3%. And obviously, we've got GameStop over here at 77%. AMC's following that. Faraday Futures waking up with 22%. Koss, SunPower, Tupperware. All of these names are your sort of classic momentum movers. And the big question is, how long is that momentum going to move? Last time we had the momentum movement, was maybe a couple weeks ago. We had we really had this shortened cycle, almost what felt like you had Roaring Kitty on X, and then you had maybe a day and a half of real momentum before really the selling off started. And so what's fascinating is now that you've got posts by Roaring Kitty on Reddit again, there are less people saying things like, oh, yes, all of his accounts have been compromised, because now we're spreading. We're on different accounts as well. Of course, having disclosed massive $20 call options expiring, in roughly 3 weeks from now. You've got probably a pretty nice day for Roaring Kitty's call option today. But his call options are going to move substantially today on this disclosure. You can see the stock here in pre-market. It looks like we're going right back to between the 37-ish line and the 43 line. So those could be the trading lines today, 43.30 and 36.94. It's just a fib retracement here that we've used. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then you've got AMC. That's looks like it's going to move between $4.30 and right now it's at $4.30, but it's in pre-market all the way up to about $5.44. I don't have lines in this area here, but we'll see. You've got a little bit of consolidation going into the open, so I think the open's going to be really fascinating. Are folks going for the double down, or are folks going for the take the tendies? So we'll see. Boston Beer looks like you've got moved down here at about 11%. I think that was news that we saw. We had some news from them. I will get to the bottom of what's going on with Boston Beer, but I saw something on them last week as well. I thought that was already handled, though, on Friday. So seeing them move again here in pre-market is interesting, so I'll pay attention to this. And we'll get right back to that once I have some data on that. Tesla right now looks like it's going to play the 178-ish line again. We've got it at 178.56. And so you can see pre-market moving roughly around that. And we'll see if we can get to 180 today. Okay, with that, let's see. Then we've got... let's see, no big movers really on the downside other than Sam Adams, like Boston Beer and the other brands here. You've got, let's see, a lot of green though in the mid range. Look at this actually. Wow, Nvidia moving 3.5%. I mean, last Friday was a pretty wild day, mind you. Last Friday you had this weird, crazy long U-shape of the Qs. I haven't seen a long U-shape like that in a while, but look at it on the 5-minute chart. You'll see, look at that U-shape. How nasty is that? I mean, you get bloody sell-off in the AM, and then that sell-off continues with barely a recovery at midday right here. And then you end with this incredible U-shape towards the end of the day. What a wild, wild ride Friday was. Of course, it's, Friday was end of the month, so you had a lot of funds rebalancing. People like to take profits at the end of the month, so they can, show their clients what performance they had, and then they rebuy. So, part of what was Friday could have been a lot of portfolio rebalancing, but made for an interesting trading day. End of month, and end of week. So, okay. That said, let's take a peek here now at what's going on with Sam. I actually still have them up from last week, so let me see what it was. All right. Okay. That's what it was. Okay. On Friday, they were in talks of a sell-off. And it looks like there were rumored speculations. Boston Beer talks about selling to Suntory. Boston Beer halted for gaining 6%, extended gains to 20%, extended gains to 28%. And then later they said, we are aware of an article on the company's sales speculation. We're fully focused on our business as an independent company, and we don't speculate on rumors. Ah, okay, interesting. So they threw a little cold beer on the story, hence now an 11% drawdown. Huh. Well, that is interesting. Maybe, sometimes I wonder, it's like, do you just quickly issue some shares and then say? Like, oh yeah, no, we're not doing that anyway. Oh, well. Okay, so let's look at some of the semis. So we've got 3% on NVIDIA, so we should be getting some movements then on some of the AI adjacents as well. Let's take a peek here. We're going to look at ARM. Yeah, 3% on ARM, not a surprise. Then you get 3% on ARM. You've got, how about SMCI? 2.5%, back to $800. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be broadly green today on the momentum rally. But you've got some, a couple pages here of red too, so it feels somewhat like a balanced, well, maybe not balanced, but doesn't seem like it's all one direction in the pre-market, which is actually good and healthy. All right, what about yields? What do we have on yields today? So yields down 4.3 bips on the 10. Nice. Then you've got gold. Oh, gold's back at 23.48, so that's back down. Then oil sits at 81.29 on Brent. Did we ever get down to 79 yet? Thought we did. Nope, not yet. Yeah, you can see. Ooh, looks like I gotta plug that HDMI in again, or what's going on here? Anyway, oh, it's coming up. Here we go. Yeah, I thought for a moment there we were getting into the high 70 range on Brent crude, but we haven't yet. But we are roughly at the lowest levels we've seen since right around the beginning of February. Around February 7th. So around some of the lowest levels since then. It's kind of remarkable. But that's also good for inflationary purposes. So, okay. So with that, then we've got, AMC looks like it's trying to pick up a little bit here. No, never mind. The spark line was from Friday. Duh. The little spark lines are nice to use, but they work when trading is open. And I generally don't trade in pre-market, so I don't really pay attention to the spark lines. But until trading's open, of course. So this will be fascinating. Almost 80% here on GME. The big question is going to be, what's the open? So if you open and you get some wild euphoria, you could go substantially higher. Well, one of the things that will be wild though is, to sell as many contracts as Roaring Kitty has, he's gonna need a lot of exit liquidity, and it's gonna be really interesting. Selling those contracts is gonna be wild. And if they're in the money, he could hold them to expiration, but I don't think he does. I don't think you're gonna get maximum value here on selling these, within probably the week. Probably, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting. See, what was it? It's $20 June option contracts. So if we go to the 21st $20 contract, these right here, they're probably going to, you're going to be in the money when this opens by 20 bucks, and then you're going to have some volatility premium on this. These are probably going to go to $30. So you're going to go, 30 bucks. You're going to roughly 5.5x here on those $20 contracts. Now that's wild. That's pretty crazy. Let me see if I remember. Yeah, June 21st, $20 call. And he's got 120,000 of the contracts at a value of $65 million. Cash total, 20, yeah. That's crazy. 100, yeah, and you can see the open interest here. Look at that open interest. That's crazy, yeah. You get, see, look at that. 145,000 as the open interest. And he's 120,000 of that. That's remarkable. Oh, wow. So you could have almost gone looking for him on the option chain. That's wild. Yeah. And you just went down the option chain. You'd be like, why is the open interest on that 145,000 contracts? Let me see if I go further out, if you ever get contracts that large. July, 12,000 is the high. What about, let's go long term here, go to January. A few thousand. Wow. It's hiding in plain sight. Look at that. What do you know? Hiding in plain sight. 145,000. That's remarkable. Roy Kitty is going for Billionaire Club. Yeah, probably. So yeah, I mean, what does that do for you? So if it goes to 30 bucks, the actual contract value, because you're going to have $20 of intrinsic value, and then you're probably doubling the extrinsic at least. You might even go more than $30. You're probably 6x on those contracts. So 6 times $65 million is $390 million. So today could be, holy smokes. He could literally double his entire account today on a $65 million contract. Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. So, all right. Well, we'll see what happens this morning, but it's going to be very entertaining. Let's listen in here for a moment. Oh, hey, we know this guy.
An unemployment number stayed this low for so long, Nick. It seems like we got some breathing room there. Inflation, I have no idea if they're ever getting down to 2%. In a year, in 2 years, I have much less confidence in that than we're starting to see a slowdown in labor. So I don't see why the risks are symmetrical.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, there's a debate right now. It's the same debate we've been having for the last year. It hasn't been resolved. One side is saying, look, the longer you stay here, the more likely you are to create weakness in the parts of the economy that were just completely unprepared for the rate shock that we had in 22 and 23. That would be commercial real estate. That would be the regional banks. And the longer you do interest rates here, the more that you will tighten the economy passively, and something could break.
Did I say double? Another $390 million would be a triple, because you take a $210 million account and turn it into a $600 million account. It's a triple.
From the rate shock. And so businesses have had time to adjust. Households are adjusting. The consumer's doing well. Your last guest made that point very well. And we have a little bit, I think, of a different cycle here, Joe. This hasn't been a credit-driven expansion. This has been wealth and incomes. Asset prices are strong. Consumers feel wealthier. They're spending more. And so until jobs and incomes change, it's hard to see how you have the slowdown that a lot of people have been anticipating.
So in your gut, Nick, and you follow closely in addition to, having access, you're pretty sure that the default move will be a cut. There's no way we're going back to a stop-start. Maybe I'm just, because I was a child of that era, I know how easy it is to think that you've, put a stake in the heart of inflation, and you really haven't. You're convinced that the next move will eventually be down.
No, never say never, but I think you have to ask yourself, where is the reacceleration going to come from? It could come from wages, but we see wage growth slowing down. It
Oil,
could come from
OPEC.
Yeah, it could come from a shock. Certainly, I think a shock is the most realistic way you get this. But look at oil right now; it's not threatening, $100 or something that we were talking about last fall. You could have inflation expectations move up. That would get committee members' attention at the Fed. Or you could have a global growth reacceleration. But I think all the things you'd need to see to put hikes back on the table, they're not really barking at you right now.
Right. Well, then it was a successful soft landing, and that's all we needed, and we're back at cutting, and the market's going to love it, and what a world. I just, nothing else is going right in the world. Maybe this will be a real happy ending, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the path for a soft landing has narrowed some because the inflation that we saw in the first quarter made the Fed reluctant to do the soft landing mid-cycle adjustment. It means there's a greater risk that they're going to wait to see something break in the labor market before they start cutting. And so they have, I think, trauma. There's a little bit of PTSD from not just the inflation surprise of 2021, but then the second half of last year where they thought they were going to need to really slow down the economy to get the kind of disinflation we saw. Right. And instead we got the disinflation with strong consumption growth. So when the Fed or when central banks just aren't confident in their ability to forecast inflation, and look what happened in the UK. The Bank of England was ready to cut, and then they got a bad services inflation number. Right. The ECB is going to cut this week, but they got a services inflation number last week. So there's a little bit of PTSD here, which just makes them more data dependent, more reactive to the high frequency numbers because they don't have confidence in the forecast.
A lot to mull over, Nick. We appreciate it. Thanks. Doesn't sound like none of us are taking the summer off, I don't think, but thanks.
Coming up, Reid Hoffman. But first, a message from not Reid Hoffman, but Reid AI Hoffman.
Hi, I'm Reid AI, Reid Hoffman's digital twin, and I am looking forward to our chat coming up next on Squawk Box.
Yeah, good old AI. Nick T, nothing really surprising there from Nick T. I think he's been a pretty transparent tool of the Federal Reserve to convey, like, hey, this idea of rate cuts, rate hikes, we just need to take that off the table. We're not seeing that. It's almost like Jay Powell sent him a little texty doodle. Hey, man, we're just not seeing any of the conditions here. Can you try to make that clear on CNBC or whatever? Yeah. But that's also a reiteration, frankly, of what Jay Powell's been pretty transparent about. He's been pretty clear that rate hikes aren't really on the table right now. Okay, so this is going to be a really, we had something in my eye, it's bugging me. This is going to be a really interesting open. So I just posted on X, look at this. I think this is really remarkable. So I posted $65 million in GME contracts could 6x at open today. That would be $390 million in account value. Plus the 2x on shares means this $210 million account could triple at market open today. Once you add in the 230 million plus the 390, you're going to be over $630 million, and it's a $210 million account. So you're literally a triple, which means Roaring Kitty will be more than half a billionaire today. How freaking crazy is that? Holy smokes. That's crazy. Half a billionaire. That's wild. So that's pretty cool to think about that. So good for him. That's very, very cool. Hold on, just transparent. Hey, here's what I'm trading. He doesn't tell anybody to copy him, doesn't tell anyone to follow his lead or advice. Just, hey, here's my perspective. Good on him. Obviously, very, very incredible meme and momentum movement that was really created around this. I don't think without what happened with GME, I don't think they're really. I mean, there are always momentum pumps, but I don't think it would be as broadly covered and violent in terms of like the upside that often happens if it weren't for him. So shout out to him. All right, so yeah, it's gonna be wild to see the market open today. Faraday futures here, pretty remarkable. Back up 25%, and this is down to 73 cents. I mean, at one point this momentumed up to like $3, but it looks like you're gonna have your sort of classic players today. You're gonna have your AMC, your GameStop. I would suspect Hood's gonna be moving again as well. It got another leg up here. We were 3% this morning. Now it's 4.6. I do want to say Tesla wasn't part of the momentum movement in the last cycle. So I don't know that it will be today. Tesla seems to move a lot more off fundamentals than off of momentum, unless of course there's some CEO who's selling 24-ish billion dollars of the stock in a year, leading the stock to tank or contributing to it. But that that's pretty rare. So anyway, okay, let's listen in here for a moment.
He's writing speeches and interviews. What podcast interview do you think Reed conducted most impressed you?
That would be the podcast Reed conducted with Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, on Masters of Scale. Brian shared his journey of transforming a simple idea into a global...
This is weird. I don't want to listen to this AI nonsense. I mean, I get it. It's cool, but... yes, Holly, there's a course member live stream section. Just watch lecture 1.0. Is this an AI? It is, yeah. There he actually is.
It's like you
Okay, so tell the audience, how did you create this?
Well, so we used off-the-shelf technologies.
Okay.
So video from Hour One, audio from 11 Labs, and then ChatGPT is a special bot trained on 20 years of my writings. And so it was all essentially what anyone could do going to these three commercial entities.
Okay, and from a processing power perspective, how long does it take to create so I asked the question, and then I know we had to do some work behind the scenes to create the answer. How long did it take to process, for example, that 30-second or 40-second answer, you think?
Most of it's creating the video. Everything else is closer to, not still quite real time in the way that we have the, kind of 200 milliseconds of real time interaction. But the video is probably, 30, 40 minutes.
30, 40 minutes for that 30-second.
Maybe even 20 now, but yeah.
And so what was the biggest lesson for you in doing this, and what does this spell for the future in your mind?
Well, I think part of the thing that we need to look at is we've made this technology. It's available through open source. There's a bunch of different things. So this is the future that's coming. We need to figure out how to steer it. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do it. It was interesting for me because I literally just said, all right, what could be positive in this? And for example, it gives me language superpowers. I gave a speech at the University of Perugia and then released Read AI, giving it in Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, Hindi. I saw myself speaking Chinese, very strange. But that kind of human connection is, I think, actually, in fact, really possible here. And it's one of the positive features of what is otherwise.
Human connection, okay.
Are you of the deepfake side of this?
Well, if I could wave a wand this year and not have anyone be able to generate video or audio deepfakes, I would for political stability and not having uncertainty, including just people claiming things are deepfakes when they're not, as part of this.
Right. Do you think that there is a solution to that? A technological solution? People talk about tokenizing things. Yeah. People talk about crypto being part of this. People talk about stamping it. But is that even plausible?
It is plausible, and there is definitely a technological solution that creates a kind of what is the real provenance of this? Reed is really here talking with Squawk Box, and there's a certificate that asserts that goes, okay, we trust that certificate.
Right.
I don't think that the ongoing battle of I have a video technology that can tell you looking at if it's deepfake or not, That's an uncertain ground.
How far are we away from making this feel really real? So, Becky, when you sat down, Becky was saying maybe that it didn't sound exactly like it.
Boring. All right, switch off of that. Yeah, a lot of polarization here on the Roaring Kitty post. A lot. I'm just looking around here. A lot of folks that are upset by the calls, saying it's market manipulation. Other people saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with buying contracts and then showing them. I lean towards that too. And I look at that, I go, if you're talking about, hey, here's what I'm doing, and it's really clear that it's not like you should do this and you're going to make money, then there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, we have a First Amendment right to free speech here. Where you get into problems is if you say, hey, you're definitely going to make money if you do this. Well, you can't guarantee that. You can't make guarantees in the financial industry. Okay. Another thing would be if you say, I am going to buy this stock for the next month every single day. And then the next day you start selling behind the curtain. That's effed up. That's lying. So that's market manipulation. But just saying, hey, I have a position in this, I mean, that's what hedge funds do all the freaking time. That's like Bill Ackman, hey, 30 days to slow the spread. Shut everything down. Shut the entire economy down for 30 days as he's pumping his, weekly puts. He didn't tell you to sell the stock market. He just gave an opinion on how to solve COVID. So, it's I think it's pretty clear cut, fair game what Roaring Kitty's doing. Fair game. He's got the position to do it. He has one of the most followed trades, I feel like, of any trader ever in existence. And so, good for him. Anyway, okay. So let's listen to Doomers for a moment.
Really quickly through the month of June, it concludes with a big debate between Biden and Trump at the end of this month. Before we get there, let's deal with this week. This is what things look like. Your trading diary to kick off the week and a brand new month. ISM manufacturing data, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, a little more than an hour away. Tuesday, we'll get JOLTS plus factory orders and durable goods. Wednesday, ADP jobs data. Thursday, an ECB.
Nah, Greg, it doesn't matter after the fact, knowing that there's no requirement for Roaring Kitty to say, hey, I'm going to buy these shares or whatever. I mean, in fact, hedge fund disclosure rules are, frankly, 45-day delays. Or look at the politicians who have 45 to 90-day delays on their disclosures. So why does a person have to say anything before the fact? You don't have to. Knowing the influence you have, I don't think that matters for Roaring Kitty. So what? People are allowed to have influence. And that's as he's always said, he likes the company, likes the stock. Let him have influence. Let GameStop sell shares today and minimize their odds of bankruptcy. Nobody was told you have to buy the stock to get diluted to let them raise money. And if people are going to buy because they think the stock's going to go up now, well, that's on them. That's a personal decision, right? So, no, I don't see an issue with that at all. ARK is a transparent ETF, like most actively traded ETFs. You have to disclose your positions every single day. So this idea of ARK disclosing their trades every day is by virtue of it being an ETF. So, that's an industry standard for an actively managed ETF. There are some non-disclosed ETFs, which have different delays and stuff on them. But the vast majority of ETFs are transparently disclosed. This is not actually a feature. The SEC rubbing their hands, highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I think the SEC probably agrees with what I just said. It's like, hey, this is no different than a Hindenburg buying a bunch of puts and then putting out a short hit piece. No different. And it's free speech. You can have your opinion and you can put your money where your mouth is.
Over at Citigroup has been grappling with People are trying to say, well, this is a normalization process that can look more like the mid-1990s where you don't see that big drop-off. He's saying it's not...
Yeah, this is a good one, John. John here is asking, I know you're a believer of lower rates in 10 years, but it appears we broke a 50-year downtrend on the 10-year and might be starting a new trend up. That's interesting. I haven't looked at that sort of trajectory 50 years. I know we've had disinflation really for the last 40-plus years, so I see what you're saying. But I don't think breaking that downtrend will be resilient. I think we'll be right back in the downtrend soon. We'll see. Good bring up, though.
Nvidia, once again, it's higher in the pre-market. We'll talk about game, no doubt, in the next hour, but Nvidia is just running away with it once again, up by 3.1% going into the cash open. Coming up tomorrow, let's bring you the lineup going into Tuesday. It looks a little something like this. Julian Emmanuel of Evercore, BlackRock.
Where did I buy the Transformers mug? I bought that in person at Universal Studios in Florida. On the Universal Studios side, too, not the Islands of Adventure side. By the way, you know, has anybody here ever been to a Six Flags? Six Flags. You know, the company that goes around and buys all theme parks up and they brand them together as Six Flags. Yeah. That, let me see here. I'm going to pull it up. Okay, here it is. So, okay, yeah, a lot of people have. Very cool. Yes, in Valencia. So I went to Six Flags Magic Mountain yesterday. Took some of the guys from work. Took Jack. It's probably a little bit too intense of a place for someone Jack's age, but we were there and we you know, rode some of the rides that Jack was capable of riding, and then he went home with Grandpa and we went on some more rides. But here's Jack and I yesterday. It was really fun. But anyway, what was remarkable is as we were waiting. By the way, you got to get like the flash passes to actually get on the rides right away. But even then, you still have a little bit of a wait. And so while we were waiting, we pulled up, of course, as we would as finance dudes, we pulled up the earnings report. And we were debating. We're like, what do y'all think? Do they make money? Do they lose money? And my guess was that their net margin would be under 5%. And I was wrong. I didn't give them bad enough of a margin. This company actually loses money. In the first 3 months of 2024, the company brought in revenue of $133 million, so total of $133 million of revenue, and had a net loss of $82 million. Now, compared to the beginning of last year, they actually had about 3%, actually maybe even a little more, fewer revenues, because their revenue went from 142 to 133, so their revenue fell, and then their loss actually increased by about that $13 million. So here's a company that loses money to put on roller coasters for you. And we were wondering, we're like, okay, well, what's the difference between an unprofitable roller coaster company like Six Flags and like a Disney or Universal? And the one thing we really got to was that Six Flags doesn't have the branding that Disney or Universal have, which is they buy the Star Wars franchise, they buy the Harry Potter franchise for theme park purposes, or, the Super Mario World or Simpsons, whatever, the Mickey themes, doesn't matter. These brand values actually let you sell goods and services around that brand for probably 2 to 3x what a company like Six Flags can actually sell their goods and services for. But pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. They have DC. Yes, they have Looney Tunes, but I mean, honestly, they don't. I don't even think they really capitalize around it. I feel like they got like a lot of the lower tier, less popular, what's it called? brands. So yeah, they have some brands. I mean, we were walking around with a Princess Peach at one point yesterday, and so they have some licensing agreements. But obviously, whether it's the way they sell or the infrastructure they set up around a lack of themes, it leads to net losses at the company. And frankly, when you go around there, it's not really maintained the way the rest of the what's it called, like the competing parks look like, right? So there's certainly some mismanagement there. Somebody here says that it's a seasonal business. You do realize I'm comparing the same season year over year, right? Like, when somebody says it's a seasonal business, comparing January, February, March to last year's January, February, March, jeez Lord, is the same season. It's the Velocicoaster I think you're thinking of. The Velocicoaster, mind you, is probably one of the best roller coasters I've ever been on. The reason for that is Velocicoaster. If you go on the Velocicoaster, go look at Q3. That's fine. I realize you could do that and you can look at it sort of an annual basis. But I'm just saying, like, their losses expanded and their revenues declined in for Q1 over Q1, and I thought that was really interesting. I thought that they would have had more growth coming out of 2023, and so I was surprised by that. But anyway, the Velocicoaster is really interesting. So, well, and then we need to get off the topic of roller coasters, as fun as it is, though. So the Velocicoaster, what's worth knowing about this one is it's actually an induction roller coaster, which they have one of those at Six Flags Magic Mountain. But these induction roller coasters, they're almost like two rides in one, and you'll know it when you go on them. But the way you have to think about it is most roller coasters, like an X2 at Six Flags or whatever, you go up the chain lift. So you do that click, clunk, 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 right? And as you're kind of going up, that's not really part of the ride. That's anticipation building. That's not really part of like this is fun. Like going up the roller coaster isn't really the thrilling part. In an induction roller coaster, you get launched much like a Tesla, like Model S Plaid, where it's kind of going into like cheetah stance, and then you get launched at the open to move up the actual roller coaster. And so when you move up and you're actually flying up the ride, that's part of the ride as well as going down the ride. And the induction motors are basically like motors on a Tesla. And it's really interesting. Like you actually you have some really, really incredible power that comes out of these roller coasters. Really cool. So if you ever go on an induction roller coaster, they're some of the smoothest, fastest roller coasters you can go on.
Talk to it, and that's the world. So that doctor is now freed up to do something else. But I found that this AI doctor to be very soothing and stimulating.
Well, if the Read AI demonstration in the last few minutes with Andrew is any indication, that's where we're going. There's the productivity gains, Jim. There's the cost savings that Jensen talked about, and the energy savings. Take a quick listen to a piece of the weekend's keynote.
We've been experiencing inflation for so long in general purpose computing. Now that we finally determined to accelerate, there's an enormous amount of captured loss that we can now regain. A great deal of captured, retained waste that we can now relieve out of the system, and that will translate into savings. Savings in money, savings in energy. And that's
again, the point of Six Flags isn't to say they lose money in Q1. The point there is to say that their losses increased in Q1, which I thought was really weird. So, look, I mean, here's the annual report, just so people can stop commenting on it. I get it. It's a theme park. We totally understand. But look at the losses. What happened? In 2022, you had $169 million of net income. In 2023, you had 146. In 2023, you had 86. The profitability of this business is plummeting. And this is as revenues actually on the year grew in 2023. Their SG&A expenses ballooned in 23. And they took some impairments over here as well as they dumped some assets, but I mean that's almost a fraction of this increase in loss that they had. I mean you almost halved your net income, and the stock went down by half too over 2022. But it's kind of crazy. Anyway, that is interesting.
Given what generative AI is capable of doing, guys, if you don't mind, I'm gonna get to Paramount because I think
no Paramount. The real point is that inflation has hit to the extent people can't afford to take a family, even do an amusing park. Yeah, it is. That's probably a contributor, and that's really you're not also getting, your high ticket spenders there, who are willing to pay, tens of thousands of dollars for a week at Disneyland or Disney World or whatever, because again you don't have the maintenance, the upkeep, the branding, whatever. It's really interesting. It's a fascinating sort of business to pay attention to. So anyway, let's take another look here. Looks like there are some to remember here. Let's go to BTC. I heard some folks say that was starting to move a little bit. Oh yeah, look at that! Wow, look at that! Breaking out off my line right here, 69,000. And this is pretty remarkable. And yeah, it's a good omen for the day. Q's also moving up slightly here, 76 basis points. Tesla honestly kind of lagging behind, but not a surprise as you've got to really get into the market open here, and we're going to see where everything's moving today. It appears that the theme is up today, but we'll see. 11:33 there on Nvidia. A lot of talk about these new AMD chips. Let's go to AMD. AMD only up 1.85%, still only up half as much in the pre-market as Nvidia. It's like AMD announces new chips, Nvidia goes up. Oh man, that's crazy. All right, let's listen in today.
And then you're going to be left with equity in Nuco, because Nuco is also going to include Skydance. Remember, that's getting brought in. By the way, that is being brought in now, I'm told, at a value that is less than had been previously sort of tossed around. The $5 billion number had been used. Now I'm hearing it's in the high $4 billion. So they're reducing the value overall of Skydance. That gets rolled in. And then as well, Skydance, Redbird, Larry Ellison obviously is part of this. They're going to contribute $1.5 billion in cash to Paramount's balance sheet. That is essentially, let's view it as debt reduction, try to get them on the path to investment grade, growth capital. And what do you end up with here? You really end up with, in many ways, what is a private equity deal, for lack of a better term. That really is, you're going to have a public equity stub. Roughly a third of the shares currently outstanding now will be held by B holders or held by shareholders, and the remainder of the economics will be held by Skydance and Redbird. And of course, they also will control the company through its A shares. The numbers are pretty staggering because it's $2 billion for Sherry Redstone. It's $4.5 billion that will be used to buy out roughly almost 50% of those B shares. And it's $1.5 billion in cash contributed to the balance sheet. Add that up. That's $8 billion here. Now, of course, we know Larry Ellison's got multiples and multiples of that, but Redbird for its part as well, roughly $10 billion right now under management, certainly going to be raising new funds as well to contribute that significant sum to getting this deal done. And don't forget the risk that they're taking on here as well. Of course, you're talking about a company that is no shortage of challenges, that is currently run by 3 different people. Some people have taken calling it the Pep Boys are running Paramount, and that's going to be in process for quite some time. And so you don't know even how much the assets are going to be diminished over that time period before you're committed to step up and spend that kind of money. But there is a belief, it seems certainly on the Skydance and Redbird part, that once they merge Skydance in and once they start to execute the strategy that they believe they can put in place, it will bring significant accretion of value. A lot more on that strategy in the days to come, of course, and one would expect if and when they announce the deal, we'll start to hear a lot more as well. This deal is not going to require a vote of the majority, the minority, right? The whole process with the special committee replaced that. There's no vote going to be required here because potentially that wouldn't go their way, and that was part of the negotiations. There will be an annual meeting tomorrow, strangely. You may get that without any real announcement here of the actual transaction again. As for the go-it-alone strategy that at least one director had sort of been espousing, there's a belief, generally speaking, that not being investment grade, not having access to the capital they need to potentially get there, there simply was not a path that was viable for Paramount to really think it could pursue versus the opportunity to give its shareholders a significant exit here, and an exit that apparently a lot of them want. So we are very close to concluding at least this part. But Jim and Carl, what that means for the future of Paramount as you wait for a close. By the way, who knows how long that could be? You got FCC's got to sign off, right? CBS is owned here. We'll have to wait and see.
But David, for a long time, you were talking about it has to be a $3 billion cash infusion.
Now it's way more. They went up.
All right, Jimbos and the CNBCs. I'm going to jump into short interest review here. Short interest, it's actually at one of the highest levels right now on GME that it's been. I mean, briefly we had a short at on May 22nd at a higher level, but we're sitting at 26.43% short today. So with a notional value of $1.6 billion. So let's write that down. 1.6 billion short outstanding. Billion short outstanding on GME at 20. What are we at? Let's see here. We're at 20. What did I say? 26.43%. 26.43% short interest. Highest level, excluding May 22nd, since. Let me see how far I could go back. At highest level in at least a year. But probably even more. Can I go back further? Oh, I can't go back any further. Oh, that's lame. I want to go back more, but I can't. Okay. That's wild. Anyway. So highest level in at least a year. That's crazy. That's gonna make for a really interesting open here. So buckle up. So I'm gonna write in at least a year. Possibly highest since Jan 21. Yeah, possibly the highest, frankly, since January 2021. I'm just writing that on Twitter really quick. 1.6 billion outstanding, short outstanding on GME at 26.43% short interest. Highest level excluding May 22nd in at least a year. I should say end of May. There we go. It's just today. Okay. That's wild. Okay. That's going to be crazy. I think, I don't know. I think this market, this could be really entertaining open. I'm really curious to see the direction it goes. Let's run a poll here. So let's survey the audience. Let's look at the fibs here. Okay. And we're going to run a poll. We're going to say, what do you believe is more likely at open? What do you believe is more likely at open? GME 5237, GME 3057. Start poll. All right. Go ahead and vote. What you think is more likely today? Are we going to the 52 fib, or are we going to the $30 fib? As you can note, I'm taking out the 2 at the trading range here, and I'm assuming there'll be some form of a move. We'll either move here, or we'll move here. I'm not sure. Callus, how do I feel about Dell or others that have taken big hit? Well, I mean, Dell specifically, I think it's less than $120 stock. So I do think it's substantially, it's overvalued, frankly, and where it was as well. And that's something I said before the last earnings call. The last earnings call actually reiterated that to me, in that they're probably just giving away their AI infrastructure equipment to sort of get their foot in the game because it pumps the stock. Kind of remarkable. Oh, pretty crazy. No, I don't think Roaring Kitty's option is going to be $1 billion today, but it could be. It depends on which way it goes. At open, I actually ran the math on this a little earlier in the live stream. I ran the math that 65 million in GME contracts could 6x at open today. All I'm really doing is taking, $40 or $20 contract, pricing in $20 of intrinsic and $10 of X. That makes a $5 contract now worth 30, which is 6x. And the extrinsic could be more, right? But that'll happen more so like as more people buy into these contracts. But anyway, plus the 2x on shares means this $210 million account could triple at market open today. Roaring Kitty would be worth, will be more than $500 million today. Oh, pretty crazy. Oh, yeah. You'll probably get some halts at open, too. How many halts are we getting on GME today? It's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah. Somebody here says, thanks for the Salesforce play. Salesforce was a really good play on Friday. I actually had GME calls on Friday, too, which is funny because I think Roaring Kitty was also buying on Friday before he posted this. I was noticing some, weird volume coming in. I didn't think it was him, but I didn't even think it wasn't him either. I just didn't think about that. I just saw the volume. But, yeah, Friday was still a tough day, but that's okay. So, let's see what happens. Okay, we got 13 minutes to go. What do we got here?
All about resolving through this reorganization plan 99.7% of the claims, and it's all about letting the claimants vote. As I said before, we feel very confident of where we're in the process. Let them vote.
Okay. And, sorry, I think we have another question back at the exchange.
No, we're good.
No, I think it's all you, Angelica.
Yep, no problem. And I do want to talk about the IRA for a second because you had 3 of your drugs that were selected for price negotiation. So what can you tell us about those negotiations with the government and what we should expect between now and this fall?
We have made projections of our growth from 2025 to 2030 of 5 to 7% average growth rate. And we're very happy with our performance so far. Our growth in the first quarter was 8%, and that includes the impact of IRA. We have a history as Johnson.
All right, let's get a few last-minute votes there in on the GME poll. If you want to vote, I'm going to end the poll in about 30 seconds here.
Healthcare for all Americans. Unfortunately, the IRA is not the way to do that. It's going to mean less investment in R&D. It's going to mean less cures. And it's not going to address the central problem, Angelica, which is patient affordability. Think about this. 60% of the price of the medicines goes to intermediaries. What we should be working is try to see how we pass the 60% to the patients so we can improve patient affordability, we can lower out-of-pocket.
Johnson & Johnson. Yes, we are working to lower your prices. Oh, okie dokie then. So, all right, I'm going to end the poll here. Let's see what y'all said. So it looks like we're split about 2/3, 1/3. Out of 1,100 votes, 37% of you voted that GME is likely to go to $30. And 62% of you, I feel like there's, yeah, I guess that's right, okay. So it's not quite 1/3, 2/3. But 62% of you voted that GME is likely to go to $52 today. Now, in fairness, the market is bleeding a little bit into the open on GME. You can see that right here. But it really, I mean, I think the pre-market purchasers have made their purchase. I think what you really have to pay attention now to is what are people going to do at market open? That market open move is what's going to matter. Is Roaring Kitty going to hold, or is he going to dump? Do you wait for the pump? Is the pump over? We shall see. That's going to be really interesting. The direction this morning. And it could flip and U-turn very, 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 very quickly. So, 10 minutes to go for that. It'll be exciting no matter which way it goes, that's for sure. Other things that are moving, obviously, AMC here bleeding a bit, but 21%. You had BTC had a nice move, but that's starting to rotate down a little bit. You've got Robinhood, about 388. Tesla's only up about 30 basis points here. We might lose that 178 if this keeps going on Tesla today. And looks like on end phase, we got a nice run here, going back over the 130, running over to, ooh, look at that perfect bounce there, 125.23. And looks like we're going to go over to the 133-ish range. We'll see. We shall see. Worth buying NVIDIA stock after the split, says someone. You know, I don't see generally splits as a great catalyst because it doesn't make much of a difference fundamentally, but leading into a split, people get pretty excited about the idea of a split, and you probably actually get more enthusiasm before a split than after a split. I don't know, I kind of think you could end up having more of a, what's it called today, like I should say after the split, I wouldn't be surprised you have more either sideways trading or down trading on NVIDIA, but that's a guess. It wouldn't surprise me. It's not a bet that I would make. I wouldn't put money on it. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just such a great company that makes so much money. It's really almost impossible to bet against NVIDIA. But, we'll see. All right. So, let me go see what the Doomers have to say. If they have anything to say this morning.
Is very well positioned at the moment. There are some others who might also manage to get into the space. Of course, going way back in the supply chain, we have, of course, ASML, which is, you know, essentially got a monopoly on the equipment used to make the next generation of chips. They sell those in turn to TSMC, which then sells them to NVIDIA. So I think investors are starting to become savvier about this supply chain. There are a few others in the space offering discrete parts of semiconductors, but it seems as though the small number of real beneficiaries are pretty well telegraphed at this stage.
I love that ASML has like a button, and whoever's in charge of that, whoever controls the button can turn off AI chip production for the world. So I thought that was pretty interesting. What else are we looking at in terms of like valuations, Alex? I was thinking at the beginning of last year are getting pretty frothy, but this...
Interesting phrase here. Ryan here says he will hold long enough to not make it look suspicious. Interesting. He's created a lot of liquidity with that post, though. Yeah. So, oh, we get data at 6:45 again? Oh, not again. Yeah, let me look at the data calendar. Because that's what, like, destroyed the market last week. Oh, yeah, you get S&P U.S. manufacturing PMIs, final release for May at 6:45, and then you get construction spending, ISM manufacturing, ISM prices paid, ISM new orders, ISM employment at 7 a.m. So I'll cover both of those. Tomorrow you have JOLTS, then you get ADP employment Wednesday, you get jobs numbers on Friday. All right. All right. What do we got here? 6 minutes to go to open.
Backyard.
Oh, lots of ads. Okay, fine. It's exhausting. Okay. So, what else do we have today? Well, obviously, the momentum rally is going to be the big thing that people are paying attention to today. In addition to that, we are... I mean, these catalysts, generally I wouldn't put much weight on them, but I got burned ignoring the Chicago data last week, so I ain't gonna do that again. But that's all right, you know. You live, you learn to live. My father-in-law always says it. All right, what else? So, So next up, I don't know that we really have much news outside of what's going to happen in the momentum world today. I'm trying to see what else there really is. NVIDIA's new products send market cap closer to Apple. AMD is speeding up the introduction of new AI processors as it wants to dent NVIDIA's domination. ISM will give an update on whether the economy is faltering. Yeah. Further color on whether stock investors should be ready for an economy that could quickly look more recessionary or whether momentum is falling. Last month's ISM fell under 50 while PMI was just above that level. Short-term leading indicators for ISM and PMI indicate we could see more downside in the indices for the next month or two. Trend down, they think. Recessions are characterized by persistent declines in economic data, therefore we would need to see at least a few months of sub 50 to start getting worried about a near-term downturn. Remember, the inverted yield curve is still inverted, so it's still a little harbinger of doom, of recession. Inverted yield curve right now sitting at, for the 2s10, negative 40 basis points. And if I look at the world interest rate probability monitor, we're sitting at about 1.5 cuts being priced in at the moment. All right. We'll see what happens. All right. I gotta go to the bathroom really quick. I'm going to keep listening, but I'll be right back.
Will someone say in the government that this means there will be only one company you can deal with? And WM will have to make some sort of deal saying, no, we're not going to take this or that, because that's how things go now. But good deal. I don't think the stock should be down. I think when people look at it, they say, nice extension. WM may be worried about a possible recession. A lot of their business involves construction debris.
Is that what it is?
Yes, it is.
As I always, one of my pet peeves, when you read the definition of what these companies do, oftentimes you still have no idea, because the way they describe it is compliance-based solutions that protect people and brands and promote health and well-being and safeguard the environment.
They're throwing out trash.
Okay. Well, that's Stericycle, but they're throwing out dangerous trash.
Dangerous trash. And I look, that's historically, it takes a bit of a, obviously, skill set, but Stericycle's the best there is. That's why when you see that price, that's like, wow, okay, so best of breed gets best of price.
Yeah.
And it's pretty terrific.
They're talking about a net debt to EBITDA ratio of about 3.4 times at Waste Management.
A little higher.
After the deal. And they do say they continue to have that long-standing commitment to a strong balance sheet, investment-grade credit. Obviously, they intend to stay within, and they want to achieve a leverage ratio back down to 2.75 to 3. They say that'll take about 18 months after the deal.
They generate a huge amount of cash. They are looking very, very consistent. I don't know if we have a chart, but WM has been such a winner during this period. And this is a reminder that you're getting a chance to get in. You rarely do. It's rarely down a lot. And it's just a fantastic stock for this moment.
Well, it's not down now either.
No.
Oh, well, barely. There it is. Yeah, barely
it's a
down.
fantastic moment. But because every company needs growth because the Fed is slowing growth. This gives them a lease on life. I don't like the way Carrier Global got a lease on life when they bought the
heat pump company.
Yeah,
in Europe.
and then Honeywell bought an acquisition from Carrier that closed this weekend. It's very good.
Yep.
So you're seeing these acquisitions replacing growth. We got to keep in mind that companies are worried.
Got it.
Did you mention Becton Dickinson and
that is
Edwards Life Sciences?
No, we have those.
Edwards Life Sciences wanted to be pure play. This is so up Becton Dickinson's aisle. I cannot believe how special this thing is for BD. By the way, BD has had no growth. And I think that BD is a really good.
Go. All right, folks. This is going to be a really, really entertaining open. We're going to watch what is a GameStop going to do? What is Robinhood going to do going into the open? What is AMC going to do? I'm starting to see the green candlesticks already, folks. Here we go. Green candles already coming in. Let's see what actually ends up happening.
CNBC Real-Time Exchange of the big board today. It is Skechers, footwear brand, along with New York Knicks All-Star Julius Randle. Got David's attention. And at the NASDAQ, it's Ford Energy doing the honors. We've talked about Deckers and On and what's happened in footwear in recent quarters, Jim.
involving Nike. A lot of people, I mean, yeah, there was a big push on Friday. Obviously, Hoka. Deckers is probably one of the greatest performers of our era. I would put Deckers against, say, GameStop.
Well, you mentioned GameStop. We can come back to it briefly if you want to. It's obviously going to be up a lot.
Yeah, I don't really see much movement there at the open. I'm wondering, did it like instantly get halted here? Looks like it's just sort of sitting there at like $40 right now. Don't really see what's moving here. It does look like AMC's wanting to rocket up. You've got AMD up 2.5. Robinhood's taken off right now. Tesla goes red. Of course it loses that line. That's something we were talking about in the pre-market here as well, that there was some likelihood of that. So, wow. Really, really incredible movements here. So, let's see what happens. So, I want to see what the contracts are moving for on GME, especially as we try to figure out a direction here. It looks like, I swear, yeah, there we go. There's the halt. There's the first halt on GME to try to get that balanced pricing again is the excuse. The $20 calls for June 21st went to, see, yeah, that's odd. They're only $18. I don't think the market is fully priced in yet, all the intrinsic value, because $18 is literally where the stock price basically sits right now, which is just an extrinsic value or an intrinsic value move. You're not getting any X on that. So that's interesting. I would expect at least $10 of X, but you're not getting that. Instead, you're getting red candles now. Look at this. Robinhood's the only one trying to keep onto it. Oh, I'm on 5-minute candle here. There we go. 1-minute candle now. So you're getting red. Look at that. AMD's given up. Oh, this is bizarre. Look at this. Super Micro is just plummeting here at the open. Now, this is really interesting. You've got the Qs are moving up nicely. Whoa, Tesla just turned green again. Oh my God. Okay, well, this is what we talked about. We said, look, hey, we're sitting over here at 179. We're in this mid-range. We're either going to break 178.56 or we're going to the 180. There it is. Going to 180. Now, that's really interesting because Tesla didn't really have a direction there in the pre-market, and all of a sudden it appears to be having some direction, sitting at about 180 at the moment. You did have a lot of enthusiasm at the end of the day on Tesla on Friday. AMC continues its bleed. AMD is trying to find a bottom. Super Micro, oh, it's trying to bounce right there on my line. I've got a line at 792. Why do I have a line at 792? I don't know, but it's there right now, so we'll see if it holds or breaks through that. ARM is skyrocketing. I don't know what's going on over at ARM, but ARM's skyrocketing. Qs are moving. Salesforce moves again. Was able to make some money on Salesforce calls last week. Like that play. Enphase gave up a little bit going into the intro. Is NVIDIA going to get rejected again here at 1140? Let's see it. Is it going to go through 1140? Come on. Oh, it's trying to go through. Let's see if it can actually hold that going through. We'll watch. Okay. GME still halted. AMC's not really moving bigly here. AMD's looking for a bottom. Bullish on BTC. Bullish on the Qs. Tesla coming back. It's struggling there on that breakout over 180. Let's see what happens. NVIDIA, oh, okay, on the 1 minute, we're starting to confirm that breakout. Are we going to get it on the 5 minute? Let's see. Seems AMC keeps bleeding. So the momentum moves are bleeding, and that's also leading Robinhood to bleed so hard here to push for a... oh, look at that bounce on SMCI. But you can see it a little better if I go to the average. Look at that. It's almost a perfect bounce on the 792 line. Why is the 72 line there? I don't know. I placed it there at some point. Some reason for it. Yeah, continuing to try to push through that 1140 figure there. Let me see when our trading halts should be up. Trading halt. Oh, GWAV is pausing as well. GWAV. Oh, suspended. Oh, on a collapse there in price. That's a big collapse there on GWAV. GameStop should be up again in about 1 minute. 1 minute to open here. So, let's see here. And what's Apple doing? I see someone shouting out Apple here. I don't really see anything going on there. All right, here we go. You ready for GameStop? This should be up in the next about 30 seconds. So, let's see what happens because AMC is going down. Very interesting. AMC's bleeding. AMD's meeting the bottom. Q's just fell. ARM's pushing. Tesla's pushing. ARM and Tesla are pushing. Okay, we got 17 seconds to go. Here we go. BTC's knocking on $70,000, which is very bullish for the day. And GME should be up now. Oh, that's a fall. That's a red candle. Oh, which way is it going to go? Which way is it going to go before it gets halted again? Oof. Getting a little bit of downtrend here. Let's see here. Yeah, Apple's bouncing a little there. Still at 1140 on NVIDIA. Watching GME, 57%. ARM keeps moving. I've got Tesla that keeps moving. Tesla's coming up on a 182 reject. That's a big line for Tesla. And ARM is... Let's see here. ARM's starting to rotate down. You're only up about 46% now on GME. Where we're trading right now, looks like you'd have about a 131, 130s. I think might be an interesting stopping point there. Yeah, I have a 131. 131 could be an interesting stopping point for ARM today. That's not perfect, but I had a quick look. So watch this. Oof, oof. That's it's a lot of red there. Might be some selling there at the open. I wonder what's going on with those contracts. Let's take a peek here. So we've got $20 contracts are sitting. What are they worth now? Only $14. And the open interest, the open interest hasn't updated yet, but sitting about 15, 14 bucks. It's about half of what I thought. Only about a 3x. Oh, sorry, only a 3x. Yeah, it's almost like the market there was pricing in. Oh, no, it's not going to last at that price. Very interesting, though. And taking a look here at, what is this? Boston Beers down 7. This is the downside here. Doesn't seem to be major momentum to the downside today. Looks like you're trying to create a little bit of a floor on GME. Bizarre spot. And Faraday Futures, 15%. It's less than what we had in pre-market here. Autodesk, out of nowhere, like 8%. But it's also rotating down here, so that would have been some market opening news. ARM is finally capping out. Let's listen in over here for a moment.
Their original bid, and Jim made that point when he asked me about it. They are now going to be spending $8 billion overall. Again, just to go through the numbers, $2 billion to buy out Shari Redstone and her control stake through National Amusements. $4.5 billion is going to go to B holders. It's not quite 50%, but it's awfully close in terms of paying them. And then they're going to put $1.5 billion on the balance sheet to get this thing on its way, they hope, to investment grade.
How rich are they?
Well, Larry Ellison.
Did Larry
do you really
pony
need to,
up?
Oh my God, Larry Ellison's a lot of the money here. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so
you have to love the guy.
And Larry,
Does he
and
have to
for
work
him,
with? Will he work with Zucker?
Wait, well, as I've explained it previously, David Ellison, my understanding, will most likely be CEO. Jeff Shell, former CEO of NBC Universal, will have a very senior role, perhaps as president. Jeff Zucker is at Redbird. He's associated with them, but, is there a possibility at some point down the road that they would spin or sell CBS and Zucker could run that? Who knows? But that's speculation.
Lots of speculation today. All right, let's flip. I don't want to hear it anymore.
We tried to marry our world-class ETF franchise with our world-class active franchise, and we've launched 36 funds active ETFs that now have about 13 billion of AUM. I'm particularly proud of the one that I've launched, the BlackRock Large Cap Value ETF, BLCV. We launched that just over a year ago in May of last year. We produced over 700 basis points of alpha since inception. And so it's something that we're really excited about for sure.
What are the risks that you're worried about, Tony? I mean, we kicked off the show with concerns about the consumer. We saw on Friday, real spending has dropped. We've seen, this huge amassing of debt for the consumer with rates that continue to be higher. So, all the new debt that you're racking up is even more expensive than the old debt that you had. Is that one of your chief concerns?
Well, so first of all, the history of the market is about climbing a wall of worry. So there's always something to worry about. And I think, particularly, I think this goes back to the advantage of active. How do you position against those worries? So what am I worried about? Am I worried about valuations? Yes, when you look at the S&P 500 overall, you see valuations are elevated. They're not off the charts, but they're elevated. The market's over 20 times earnings. How do you solve for that? Well, certainly going beyond the Mag 7 is one way to solve for it. Value investing is another way to solve for it. The portfolios I run on average have a PE multiple about 12 to 13 times current earnings.
Yeah.
Are you worried about
This guy's kind of boring. I think there's much more entertainment going on in the sticks. Tesla's pushing for 182. Looks like you're trying to get a breakout on Tesla. It's a pretty big line right here. 182. If you can break this, is now your second test of it. You're really going probably to 183, and then it's up from there. So watch that closely. You're almost at 67,000 on BTC, which is a big deal. That's bullish for the day. So I'm enthused by that. I'm looking at ARM continues its rally. You're at almost 7% right now. So some nice movements here on ARM. Though you're really also having this sort of slow move up right here. Apple's got some nice moves. And look at that GameStop right here. GameStop really sitting at that level of well, I hate to say sort of bleed right now. So not so ideal with what's going on over here, though. We'll see. Looks like you had a little slight reject there on Tesla. This is very normal. Let's see if it can come back up at this 182.18 test. This is now the second reject at this level. It seems to be really wanting to bounce within this range, earlier hitting VWAP. So let's see the directionality here. Okay, so Apple continues to move, ARM continues to move, AMC continues to bleed, NVIDIA is holding 1140, and BTC is getting ready to crack 70K. Big deal, really big deal here. Let's listen back in over here.
Huge setback because it's open-ended.
Yeah.
Open-ended. Carl, you get 70,000 and maybe a judge rules against Glaxo and everything she's done gets wiped out. Really bad.
Finally, for me, we mentioned Elon briefly with the robots, but I want to hit Tesla again. It's 10 days away, the vote on his compensation. We told you about ISS late last week, saying yes to reincorporating in Texas, but reaffirming no, at least in their opinion, as a proxy advisory firm, to affirming the compensation plan. They advised the same way back in 2018. This is the response. Deal should be a deal. They say Musk was incentivized to deliver the strong performance through the 100% at risk CEO Performance Award. They were agreed on by the board and stockholders. He delivered, and it's time for us to deliver. Robin Denholm, the company's chairman, and a number of other directors, as I said last week, will be making the rounds this week when you start to get the attention of the institutions who will play such a vital role in terms of how this vote goes. Remember, here you just need to, whatever the percentage of the outstandings, not including, obvious, or I should say, of those voted, and Musk and Kimball Musk are not voting their shares. They got to win that. Texas requires 50.1% of the outstandings in favor to get that approved.
Meantime, interesting piece in the Journal about the rapprochement, Jim, between Musk and Jamie Dimon.
Yeah.
After years of strained relations. And then nice chart book out of Jonas today, looking at the auto business in general, where incentives are climbing and inventory day supply, D3, is climbing.
Yeah, it's definitely climbing. Elon Musk, I know I'm not privy to their discussions, but when Elon Musk gets together with someone, it often comes up that you should vote for Trump. that
Oh,
Trump
yeah.
is
That almost always comes up, Trump in the discussions. Almost always.
Elon Musk does come up.
That comes up?
It comes up.
Where does that come up?
In the discussions that Elon has had with people. That's away from Tesla. I'm just saying that when you make common, break bread with him, it does come up. Is my understanding. That's important because there are beginning
we're
to see.
tracking
We're
the
seeing
Schwarzmans
billions. That's
and
why
the Adelsons
That's why I
and
mentioned
Peltzes
it. That was a
and the
very
Ackmans,
good
we
piece
think.
this morning about on Squawk
Ackman,
about the
Adelson's
billionaires who
great.
are going for Trump.
Yeah.
And how people feel that this is
Yeah, it'll be
now
very interesting to see how that
diamonds.
plays,
Their
of course,
dominoes
because
is
Trump has been
falling.
very much against renewables in general, EVs. You know, he's said about windmills and birds.
Yep. That is really interesting, too, that Trump regularly bags on electric vehicles.
Right. And they put on this great symbolist conference about energy and fossil fuel.
And
And
at the
there's a lot of
same
progress.
time, we know Musk. I mean, they ostracized Musk almost immediately in the Biden administration when they held a meeting early on about EVs, and they didn't include Elon Musk.
that was unfortunate.
That may have been
because it's
poor decision.
remember
on
he's
their
the
part.
union
but he's not
president.
a union, right? He doesn't
Union
have
president.
not a union shop, but
Well,
you
I
know.
mean, I think that I still believe. Look, a contract's a contract, but if Denholm has to make the rounds, do you think clout there?
Do I think what?
Clout? See clout?
That's why we're focused on it. It will be very interesting.
Take a look at this here. GME's trying to bounce here, but what's really interesting is you've got this market like ARM's topping out right now. I'm watching this. I'm watching NVIDIA. He just keeps getting rejected here, and it's starting to feel like a consolidation again. And I hate that. I don't like trading in consolidation days. Now the Qs keep going up though. So it's. I think you did also just get data. Hold on. Let me look at the data really quick. So the data actually came in a little better than expected. You came in at 51.3 versus the 50.9 expected for S&P Global Manufacturing PMIs. And let's see. Then you've got this move down here. You're getting rejected here. I mean, you're still testing this line here on Tesla. But I don't know that we've got enough momentum. Look at that. I don't know what it is, but it's Apple and it's the Qs today. You had the move here on ARM. Now that's consolidating down. You're starting to trade sideways on Tesla. You really need to break here violently there you go. Come on. Push it. And then what's going to happen is if you can actually break this, then you could really run a bit, which would be nice. Come on, baby. Go, Tesla, go. Don't get rejected again, please. There you go. So that's kind of what you're looking for right now. Let's see if that can continue, because you're not seeing that on NVIDIA. You are seeing the bullish trend on Bitcoin, though, which is very good. There we go. Let's see here. So Qs 1%. Enphase 117. Coin. What do we got here? Coin 522. Crowd, no. Costco, boring. Oh, you really don't have movers here right now. Come on, where are the movers? GameStop's holding on to about that 32 level, which, hey, isn't that what we ran our poll at? Holy smokes, it's literally what we ran our poll at. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. We literally ran a poll and said it's either going to 30.57 or it's going to 52.37. Only 37% of people said it was going to go to 30.57. Whoever voted that was right. And it literally went exactly to that line. That's remarkable. That is a remarkable place for GameStop to go. A perfect bounce on our line. Now the question is, can you get momentum to continue today? That's going to be the biggie for today. Will the momentum continue? The momentum. I don't know, but it's really interesting. You're not getting a lot of extrinsic value on these option contracts at all. I'm just sort of watching the options here, and I would have expected so much more based on the momentum. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see how the option pricing continues to move. But where's Tesla? Okay, so the Qs are rotating down now. Tesla. Yeah, look at that. Again, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. That's the third reject now. That's bad. So when you go to the 5 minute, it's going to look like a consolidation. You see that? Hard to trade that stuff. ARM was really rallying there for a moment. It's capping out. You're topping out on Apple. You really can't get a lift off here on GME. No, it's one of those markets again. Okay, yeah. No, I don't trade sideways. SMCI sideways. Qs are coming down for what? I don't know. End phase bled down for what? I don't know. You've got a downtrend on Dell. I'm wondering, it just feels like a risky day to play a downtrend on ARM. You know, as soon as you short this, it's going to just go up another 3% and you'll get screwed is what it feels like. Yeah, you're still trying on GME here. So you are getting some enthusiasm on that bounce right there. Not unsurprising at that particular level. But that's clearly a very important point for GME, the 3072. Regular sort of Fibonacci move here. Oh, gosh, Tesla. Yeah. Well, look at that, between the lines. And consolidating. So it either bounces here or it breaks this. You break this, it's right back to 178. It's annoying. Yeah. 22-minute consolidation already. What trash. This is the kind of crap that is I think, very, very dangerous for trading. You need a direction. Then you could play the trend is your friend or whatever. You know, Apple 88 bips here. Green wave is still suspended. Nvidia is touching the 130 right here. Not good if it breaks that either. AMC's trying to rotate back up. AMD, BTC is now coming down. Here comes now the bad omen. You got 69 bips on the Qs continuing to fall. Honestly, I don't know why. It's not like there was some crazy bad catalyst that just came out at 645. You had the S&Ps, which came in better than expected. I think maybe there could be pessimism over the 7 o'clock, right? You could have pessimism over 7 a.m. ISMs. Prices paid, it's sort of an inflation gauge, tells you a little bit about recession, manufacturing, but I got a lot of lines moving down here. A lot of downtrend right now. You can see that a little more clearly here. Jose says, love that you're implementing your rules. I love your video. I'm now up 9K on the month since I bought the course. You give me ideas. Thank you. Oh, congratulations. Obviously, I can't verify that he's actually up 9K. But congratulations. I believe you. Yeah, what I did is I posted I made a trading rule sheet. And this trading rule sheet, you should almost, in my opinion, have your own trading rule sheet and print it out and laminate it. And every time you trade, you have that trading rule sheet. And so previously, I just sort of would mentally try to remember my rules. And I think that led to a mistake on Friday. And so I'm going to stick to my sheet now. And I think that's going to help me avoid some of the trading mistakes I've made before. And I think that makes you a better trader, right? Over time, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to do things well and you're going to do things poorly. But learning from your mistakes is the only way to get better. Or if you can learn from other people's mistakes, that's good too. Like, if I make a mistake and you can learn from my mistakes, that's fantastic. You know, I say learn from successes and failures of others so you can kind of minimize your own mistakes. But Tesla's now sort of range bound over here in this this mid range. Again, not enough movement for me to really want to be in it right now. I was hoping for it, but look, you can't even get it on GME. You can't even keep it up right here. So, you know, I'm watching the options pricing bleed out on this because you really need the volatility to continue. So it's a rough play to make right now. ARM trading sideways, tough play. Oh, look at that NVIDIA. You're just moving between these two lines. This is crazy. AMC's bleeding. AMD's going nowhere. Hood's going nowhere. BTC's somewhat coming down. stuck at the line on Supermicro, don't know where you're going on the queues. You're waiting 5 minutes for ISMs. That's what it is. This is, well, yeah, one of the big things you have to do is patience in this world, for sure. Mexico's main stock index extends losses, down 2% following election results. I guess Mexico had an election. Let's find out here. First female president. Wow, that's really cool. Look at this. Claudia Scheinbaum. Scheinbaum. Shine is like, oh, money tree. Well, shine would be like a note. Like, gib mir ein Schein. Give me a shine. Would be, you know, like, here's a hundo. Ein Schein. Scheinbaum. Baum is tree. All right. Let's see here. Preliminary results showing a climate scientist and Mexico City's former mayor on track to win. Scheinbaum. First Jewish leader. Wow. That's very interesting. Jewish female Mexican president with a German last name. Oh, is it spelled wrong? Oh, I can't do that stuff, man. I never went to school for einen, einem. Der, die, das. I can do a little bit better with that, but the conjugations, oh, it's one of the most difficult things in German. You just have to kind of sit down and study it and practice it. I don't. No. Sorry. I'm not gonna get that right, and I don't care. Anyway, so let's see what the Doomers want. Look at that. Still range bound on Tesla. Can't do it. Boring. I'm trying for another bounce on GME here. Come on. Wake up. It's like poking the dog. BRK. Oh, I'm sure it's a glitch, yeah. That's a funny chart. Yeah, that's quite bizarre. Oh yeah, NYC Equities investigating report of technical glitch. That's really interesting. Yeah. Wow. That's bizarre. It's a bizarre glitch. CMG halted too. Let's see what's going on over here. By the glitch. Why is Chipotle halted? Down 1%. For what? Like, who cares? It moved 1%. All right. It's data in a minute and a half. That's what's driving this, baby. I'm pretty sure. It's the data. Oh, AMC's just bleeding. The bleed continues. Nobody knows blood like I do. The stock market is bleeding today. I mean, it's obviously green. It's just the trending down. All right. Let's get this data up. So, all right, I'll read out the data release. We're about 40 seconds away. So here's what you're going to be looking for. So manufacturing, you're looking for a number above 50 ideally, but the survey is 49.5. Prices paid survey is 59. You want that to come in lower because it's inflation. ISM new orders, 49.4. Under 50 is recessionary. You really want it to beat. And, you know, there's a potential to make a move there on maybe where's... we'll see what happens, but I'd potentially say something like you know, what's it called, get a Q's contract or something like that. All right, here we go. You ready for a beat or a miss? You've got ISM manufacturing comes in a miss on manufacturing, prices paid comes in a little softer, a miss on new orders, and employment comes in high. I don't know how to read this. new orders were terrible and manufacturing's terrible, but employment up and prices paid down. So it's a mix of both. I don't know what to make of that. It's a mix of both. I literally have no idea. Again, that's a 48.7 on manufacturing. It's a miss. Prices paid comes in at 57, which is lower, which is what you want. And then you've got new orders lower at 45.4, not great, but employment better than expected. Let's see if they're covering this.
After last week's losses, we're rebounding a little bit here. The S&P is up 0.4%. The Dow's under a little more pressure, and that's thanks in part to Home Depot dragging 25 points off, Travelers, Chevron, Goldman Sachs. But there is some nice performance in tech this morning, thanks to NVIDIA and some of the other chip names in particular. Information technologies at the top of the S&P, energy, materials, utilities, and financials are lagging today. It's why the NASDAQ is up 0.75%. Tech is strong. Take a look at treasuries as we start out the week. Remember, it's a quiet period for the Federal Reserve into next week's meeting. And there's a bid for bonds, which continues from the end of last week. The 10-year yield, 4.4%. So backing off that 4.5% where we were earlier last week, and the 2-year yield 4.8%. 30 minutes here into the trading session. Here are some three movers we're watching. You got to start with GameStop. Shares are surging again after the trader known as Roaring Kitty posted a screenshot.
I have receipts. I can post my P&L. You give me ideas, and I truly feel like people are not understanding that. All love here. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Appreciate that, Jose. That's really cool. That's amazing. Really, thank you.
Subscription will cost $1 more a month, $11.99 a month. The Duo plan will cost $2 more, and their family plan will cost $3 more, jumping to nearly $20 a month. Not good news for you, David.
No.
Watch the chips as well today. AMD and NVIDIA unveiling new AI chips at the Computex conference in Taiwan over the weekend. We're going to break down those headlines and how to trade the stocks, which are both higher, a little bit later this hour.
To Sarah's point, bonds like this.
It's all bleeding. It's all bleeding. I don't understand. Here, now they're going to cover the ISMs? Dude, that took forever.
Instead of up 0.2, we're getting down 0.1, which follows down 0.2, which means we haven't had a positive number this year. The last positive number was December when it was up nearly 1%. On the ISM manufacturing for May, and these, of course, are following the S&P Global, we're expecting a number below 50, and it remains below 50. Manufacturing at 48.7. That's the weakest since February of this year. If we look at prices paid, last month at 60.9, it was the highest in nearly 2 years. It has backed off a bit from 60.9 down to 57. 57 would be the weakest since March of this year. And, of course, we haven't been below 50 in this read since Dece of last year. And, of course, prices paid, well, less inflation may be a good thing. On the new orders, 45.4, the weakest since May of 23. And finally, the ISM employment. This is particularly important because this week, of course, we have ADP on Wednesday and the big jobs report on Friday. This number is above 50, 51.1. That is the best since August of 22. You see interest rates moving down a bit there. I'm sure that's probably a reaction to prices paid. We'll continue to monitor the long end. Right now, we're down nearly 9 basis points in a 10-year note and about half that in a 2-year note. Sarah, back to you.
And a big drop in the dollar index, the DXY, so on that data as well. Rick, thank you. Rick Santos.
Oh, look at this. Look at this bleed. It's what trash. GameStop's just bleeding down. I can't even keep arm up with watching it. Like, I was just watching it while I was listening to Sarah, and I'm like, is it gonna go for an uptrend? Nope. Tesla, what a consolidation. What a disgusting pattern to be in. No, thank you. Berkshire Hathaway, hope you had puts. That's a joke. It's obviously a glitch here. Salesforce rallied. Look at that rejection, 239. Almost a perfect rejection at 239. Etsy, can't keep it up either. I don't know what's going on. GME, like low volume. It's a low energy day, friends. Low energy day. Nobody knows low energy like my competitor. Anyway.
Coming there, but remember, she telegraphed this June cut pretty clearly. So if she gives more sort of transparent signs about the next one, for sure you could see more weakness in those bond yields in Europe and in the euro dollar. Just some overnight news from abroad to mention one of the China private sector manufacturing numbers came in at the best level in about 2 years. I don't want to make too much of this because the official China manufacturing number actually showed a contraction for May, but I'll just note it because the market moved off of it. It was the best number since 2022. It has, though, consistently outperformed the official China manufacturing number for the last few months. So again, maybe just could point to stabilization in terms of external demand for Chinese goods. China needs those manufacturing numbers to go up if it wants to meet the 5% growth target. And then India, I also wanted to mention because we got some exit polls over the weekend showing that Modi looks set to win a rare third term. And that is considered a positive by the markets. Just the India versus China chart in the last few years really gives you a good picture of just how much money has flowed into India and out of China as an alternative. And a lot of the articles this morning, including Reuters, mentioning that the Modi's next term will be dominated with more measures to make India the manufacturing hub, the alternative to China. Market rose on the exit polls. We'll get the official numbers later this week, I think on Tuesday.
Meanwhile, Scheinbaum winning in Mexico, a landslide, almost like 60-ish%. First female leader there in the country's 200 years. And in the India vote, like you see the number of poll workers who died because of heat stress.
It was
the
election started like in April, and they had this terrible heat wave in the middle of it. I know it's hard for us to imagine an election going that far, that long.
Yeah, but those temperatures are also hard to imagine.
Serious
110, 120, unbelievable. I mean,
some crazy temperature over there. Roaring Kitty definitely dumped on us this morning. Says somebody here in the comments, maybe. Kevin, thoughts on Barrick Gold? Yeah, I think there's some form of glitch going on in Berkshire Hathaway and Barrick Gold being down like this. There's something weird going on with trade reporting right now.
The blue line, real consumption expenditures. And, it's not a disaster. It's not falling apart. But as you can see, and then the orange line sort of smooths it out with the annualized numbers, it's weakening. And their bet is that you should bet on consumer spending undershooting in the coming months because they say first of all, the savings rate is low, 3.6%, so they've dipped into their savings. The excess cash from pandemic has dwindled, and wage growth isn't rising quite to the extent. The real income growth after taxes for the first 3 months of this year was something like 1%. Last year, at that time, it was 9%. So that's what fuels consumer spending, and it's coming down. And they say if we see further weakness, for instance, in the jobs numbers, that only will add to downside risk because the consumer is weakening now with what has been a pretty robust jobs
this is right up Ian's alley. He's been saying this for a while. And Morgan Stanley, too, on Friday said April's data is unleashed what they think is going to be a trend of disinflationary data, and that's why they're still with 3 cuts for the year, beginning in September.
3 cuts would be, the market is barely at 1 now coming into December. The jobs numbers this week will be important because I think the Fed would like to see more pronounced weakness in the Labor Department before being confident that they can start cutting interest rates this year. Yes, the most important is inflation and that they continue to see the disinflation, but weakness in jobs will get them there quicker.
Moving on now, the drama that we've been following for months involving the potential sale of Paramount is at its end and highly, highly likely to end with the transaction.
Someone here says only 3,800 in volume thus far for the $20 strike. And he has 120,000 of them. Yeah, it's a good catch. And I think he likes to buy and sell in 5K increments.
And the private equity firm Redbird reported this earlier. We are still awaiting the approval of the company's control shareholder, Shari Redstone, for a deal that has been reached by the special committee that was representing the B holders in this. And this is the deal they essentially have reached. The first part of that's separate because Redstone and Redbird have been negotiating for some time, but they had already agreed more or less, we're going to pay you $2 billion to take control of National Amusements, which holds the control shares, some 77% of the vote for Paramount. Here's the deal that has been reached and is now being presented overall to Shari Redstone. Skydance is going to tender at the time of close of all of this for what is not quite 50% of the shares. That means if you're a B holder, when this deal closes between now and whenever that is, you're going to be able to basically say, all right, I'll take half of my exposure off the table for what would be $15 a share. In addition, the Skydance Redbird Group is going to infuse $1.5 billion in cash onto Paramount's balance sheet. And what do you end up with at the close? In other words, you bring Skydance in. And by the way, the value of Skydance as part of the transaction has now been brought down to what I'm told is the high $4 billion. It had been a $5 billion number. It's now a bit below that. And when you close, you end up with essentially Skydance and Redbird and whoever else they may bring in, if there are any other partners, owning 67% of the outstanding shares, in addition to obviously having the control vote shares as well. So really you have a stub of a public equity. They are going to take control. They are then going to implement the plan as put in place by David Ellison and Jeff Shell to try to vastly increase the overall value of the company. That is why they're willing to spend, get this, $8 billion in cash. That's what the number is. That had not been the number earlier in the negotiations. That's where it is now. Let me break it down for you. It's $2 billion, of course, to buy National Amusements. It's $4.5 billion for that roughly 50% of Paramount shares. So you give the opportunity.
Tesla, by the way, I'm going to hop off that Paramount news. Tesla, by the way, sitting right here now at the what is this? The 170. I've got a line here at 179.67 right now. And then you've got Nvidia trying to bounce and hold on right here. It's TBD in terms of what direction this is really going to go. I don't love this consolidation pattern at all. The Qs are doing the same thing here, and Enphase is trying to move. You've got ARM that's trying to recover right here, and but we kind of keep getting rejected on the Qs. ARM, Supermicro's trying to recover again. We'll see what happens. Let's jump into the Doomers for a moment. See what the Doomers are up to. And we'll head over to the course member live stream soon and get some more coffee. What is this? What do we got here?
What that can mean for the underlying product.
Yeah, painful start to the week for GSK. Shares down almost 8% intraday. And bring it home. Tell me about waste management.
Waste management acquiring Stericycle. Stericycle focuses in that health hospital waste management. So kind of bolstering their opportunity. Total enterprise value, $7.2 billion. The premium was about 17 to 20% higher than where it had closed on Friday. Right now, the stock up 15%. Merger Mondays in the waste management space. Katie, maybe not the most fun stocks to talk about like GameStop or even like drug makers like GSK, but a big deal nonetheless. Again, $62 a share, just under $6 billion in that equity value. So pretty big deal when it comes to the waste management space.
A merger is a merger on a Monday. Bloomberg's Bailey Lipschultz, thank you so much. And of course, we do want to give you a little bit more on that breaking news earlier. Again, this crossing the terminal just before 10 a.m. that NYSE Equities, it is investigating a reported technical issue. You take a look at trading right now, and multiple NYSE stocks are showing volatility trading halts. We're going to continue to follow this story and bring you updates as we have them. Coming up, though, it's been a wild ride for the Destiny Tech 100 Fund since its debut. We're going to speak to Sohail Prasad. He is the fund's founder and CEO. Next. This is Bloomberg.
Yeah, all right. So here's ARM on VWAP, just under it. I'm watching, what's this, NVIDIA right here, bouncing off that 1130 over and over again. Supermicro can't figure out a direction, neither can Etsy. You got a bleed over here, consolidating on Tesla. Apple's trying to move up, still, you're still up 26% on GME, but it's you're just not getting a lot of momentum today in really any direction here. The Qs, some nice green candles here just in the last couple minutes, as well as Enphase and Amazon here just sort of doing nothing. Kind of a little boring here. Watching, Nvidia's trying to climb again. ARM's really struggling there at VWAP. SMCI is trying to come up again. Salesforce isn't really going anywhere. Tesla might be about to break this line right here, which isn't great. And then Hood. The 1794 is the only close line I have. Otherwise, I don't have anything particularly convenient here for what's going on with Robin of the Hood. Although Robinhood does seem like it wants to push up a little bit right now. You've got, and NVIDIA still trading sideways here. I mean, this is really boring. Supermicro trying to create a bottom there. Oh, look at that bounce on Tesla. There you go. Very, 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 very low volume, though, today. So let's watch what happens. And Apple's moving as well. All right, let's go back over here.
We were all stuck inside and had free money, and it was funny, as they put it. Many people ended up holding the bag, and they say that's not what we're about. And they say they want Roaring Kitty, Keith Gill, to take some of the GameStop shenanigans. I'm paraphrasing elsewhere. They say, good luck, Roaring Kitty, but your whole shtick and disappearance really, quote, effed retail up, and it would be nice if you didn't leave them on a cliffhanger this time. So sort of a shift there, maybe some warring factions on Reddit, guys. Back over to you.
What is the reverse Uno card? That's what he posted, right?
Yeah, the accompanying tweet was a reverse.
It's on the hedge funds.
Exactly. I mean, we could spend all show analyzing this one. It's the same thing. It's sort of, if you looked at it on its face, this wouldn't, it has nothing to do with GameStop. These are, sort of memes, and the same thing. His first post was a video game player leaning forward in the chair. So I won't even attempt to take a stab at it, but anything that he posts is seen as a sign that he's back in on the action, that he's taking positions, and it is all translating into GameStop. You're also seeing it in other meme stocks, AMC, for example, getting the same sort of rally. But he's never mentioning GameStop, which also from a regulator's perspective, interesting. If there's any sort of liability here for market manipulation, sort of uncharted territory, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Kate. Kate Rooney, as we continue to watch the surge in GameStop. As we head to break, here's our roadmap for the rest of the hour, including
interesting.
live right here.
Red candle here on Tesla. Really trying to watch for a direction here. Come up with a plan. Supermicro's down 1%. I'm inclined to say the direction could be down on these chip makers, but NVIDIA leads this and it's trading sideways. But you're not getting a lot of enthusiasm, at least not at this point, other than in Apple. Oh, look at that. GameStop right back to the line. Almost back to 67 on BTC. 75 bips on the Qs. What's up, Jack? You're gonna come charge your watch? And you're gonna come block the camera while you do that? That's all right. All right. We'll see you, dude. All right. Market manipulation, halting trades every 5 minutes. Yeah, no kidding, right? So, okay. What else? I think that's kind of getting to the end here of news to cover. Come back every day at 5:25 a.m. California time. Let's listen in briefly here just to see if there's anything new.
In the press, online, or in other conversations, and so I think there was a lot of awareness about that.
That being said, I mean, you're a couple months in. Obviously, when you launched, it was pretty wild. I think it took everyone by surprise. I assume you were surprised by some of the velocity there. Is there anything you would have done differently when it comes to risk and disclosure of that risk?
No, I think you're right. We were really, amazed to see how much people were excited by this. It's something that we've believed in for a long time. But it was also very validating to see that everyone else in the world was starting to open their eyes and realize that not only is this possible, but it should exist, and that could be destiny.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the portfolio itself, because you're still only at 23 holdings, according to your website. Your target is 100 holdings. And I believe the last time we talked, you spoke about, founders approaching you and asking to be added. And I'm curious, why haven't you built out your portfolio further? When do you think that you'll actually be fully allocated?
So the most recent filing that we did was as of March 31st.
I don't really care about your recent filing. I'm going to push the button. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services which we may benefit from. I personally operate an actively managed ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. All right, there you go. We're going to head on over to the course member live stream soon, so we'll see you all there. Thank you so very much for being here, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks again. Goodbye.